Sean Fleming, the Minister of State responsible for financial services and insurance, and I should say credit unions, although I mentioned it in the wrong order. Sorry that we were a few minutes late, Sean, but I know you came directly from the Parliament, and therefore maybe it gave you a chance for an extra half a cup of tea or something. Very nice to have you with us.
Thank you indeed, Nicholas. I'm very pleased to be here, and as a minister, we have to be in Parliament certain times on the day, so I'm free from Parliament for the rest of the evening now.
Good. No, perfect. Thanks for making the time. I think we want to look a little bit at, how Ireland approaches some of these fintech and technology issues, and I thought this was a particularly interesting subject, given that Ireland is emerging as one of the main hubs, not the only, but one of the main hubs for innovators, unicorns, and a lot of this ecosystem that brings together, on the one hand, technology, where Ireland has always been very strong, and finance, where it's also been strong, but maybe more so in recent years. And maybe I start with that. I mean, what is your perspective and your approach towards fintech from an Irish perspective?
Okay, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to speak on that exact topic. And fintech or digital finance, or whatever term different people have you want to choose, is all about the impact of technology in the financial services sector area. And it's one of the most important challenges, I think, facing us, not in Ireland because it's an international issue, and right across Europe and the world as well. And it's an important opportunity, and that's the part we want to concentrate on. There's great opportunity here for new fintech companies here in Ireland, and it's something that we actually want to work and promote. And we are a key hub here. We regularly talk about Dublin, but sometimes it's not all centred in the capital city. It's in some of the regions, but it's a small island, so we're not far from Dublin. And we're very pleased that we have some disruptive startups, as well as many of the highly tech-enabled businesses as well. Some of the major cards that people have in their wallets, they're managed here in Ireland, and we're very pleased with that. So we have both ends of the spectrum, the very big established ones, and we have some of the disruptive ones coming through as well, which is important because you need that. And I think people have to be conscious of the public want digital platforms to access their technology and their finance, and the businesses that don't do that won't be here in the decades to come. It's as simple as that. So I say generally the issue for some of these is how much of the work they do internally and how much of it do they outsource, to people on a contract basis. There are big issues there. But we really have some great innovation hubs, including Citi and JP Morgan, Fidelity, BPS, Paribas, and Aon, and MasterCard, who I mentioned, employ almost 2,000 people here in Dublin as well. And when I met them some time ago, when I was new to my job, I asked the chief executive who made a presentation to me, I said, are you a finance company or a tech company? He said, very good question. We're actually a tech company. So most people would think in the financial services sector, they are dominated by financial companies, but in fact, the technology is the key issue, the engine that drives it. And to an extent, the finance is the easy bit now, whereas it used to be the opposite in many years in the past. So we also then have big company here that started in Ireland, announced 1,500 jobs last year. The Collison brothers, one of these unicorn companies, and the brothers are Irish based, and their firm is Stripe, and they actually have their co-headquarters between Ireland and the Silicon Valley, which is really important, and it's really a growing business. And from a government point of view, we have the Irish Strategic Investment Fund, and that's really a key issue where historically funds like that were for different aspects of the economy, but now they're very much investing in, and they invest in startups and new companies and established companies and expanding companies in terms of investment from the state point of view, who can have a shareholding or a financial investment depending on what suits the particular company. I will say technology, we're seeing the sharp end of it here in Ireland, and COVID really brought it to light, and the same everywhere else, in that the traditional financial services where people went in to their ATM machine or went into a counter to meet a cashier, those days are dwindling fast. and we have some banks pulling out of Ireland, the traditional banks, and a number of branch closures around the country. Now, nobody likes to see a branch closure in your local town or the area you live, but I found the Irish people very resilient. The day they know the branch is closed, they have alternative arrangements in place. And I think the Irish people are very resilient and adaptable. And that goes back to our good education system here as well. In our department, because we wouldn't have had a good enough handle on it, the Department of Finance here at the government, we've established our own FinTech steering group within the department to coordinate all levels of activity in relation to the FinTech area, because it's spread over different sectors in the department. And we're now expanding that to have what I would call a whole of government FinTech steering group across other departments, Department of Trade and other areas, not just our own department. So that's really one of the things we're concentrating on this coming year, is from a governmental point of view. We do have an organisation that can invest. I think we're a very open economy. We're in the EU, we have the common law system, we have a lot of American investment here as well as a lot of European. So I think we're very well placed, and we speak the English language, which is many people find a great asset in dealing with us now that the UK has left, and the UK or the EU as a result of Brexit. We find that has been to our advantage actually here at home. So they're my general observations,
Now bringing it a bit more to the theme of the conference, which is kind of the European agenda and the regulatory agenda. How does kind of the vision you've just set out for Ireland and the public policy approach you've chosen fit into the European policy around digital finance?
Well, I start by saying Ireland overall is very pro-European country. This is our 50th anniversary of joining the EU, and we're just starting to commemorate it here in Ireland now. It's a big event for Ireland. We're a small economy at the edge of Europe, and we're very pleased 50 years ago that the Irish people voted in referendum to join the EU, and we're one of the only countries that every time there's an EU new treaty, we have to have a referendum for the people of Ireland to pass it. And by and large, one or two small hiccups, we have passed all the new treaties by a popular vote. And I don't think that would necessarily work in every other country, but the people of Ireland are very pro-Europe as well. And I think that's very important. So we have a very good, healthy working relationship with the EU, and we see ourselves as Europeans very much from that point of view, even though we are a small island. So we work very closely with the European Commission and the European Parliament. I think the Irish people are good at the meetings that take place, not just at the conference table, but in the corridors outside the conference table. And that has always stood to us. Being a small country, I don't think we threaten anybody in terms of the size of our agenda, but we're always able to get progress there. So the funds industry in Ireland is the second largest domicile in the EU, just behind Luxembourg, another small country. So small countries can have niche areas in terms of the financial services area. And the team of the department, here in our department, we're working extensively with the Commission on their consultation in advance of the digital finance strategy. And we're working in relation to DORA, and obviously the MiCA, the markets in crypto assets, and the retail payment strategy. So we're working very close because Ireland wants to be a leader in some of these niche areas, relative to the size of the economy in Dublin. I think we are, to use a phrase here in Ireland, we're punching above our weight, and we want to maintain that because the level of employment in this area is very good. It's very stable. It has grown. It has actually grown, in the last 12 months employment, even though we've had COVID. So that's something we're very proud of. And one issue I would just say we did have in Ireland, because so many people from outside of the state were working here. And when I spoke to some of the major employers, spoke to one bank, one big American bank, and I asked, how are you finding the working from home? And I was thinking, generally in my question, that meant working in, people went back down 100 or 200 kilometers outside their normal office. But she said we have 66 different nationalities working in our organization in Dublin. So working from home meant practically every corner of the world. And business continued, and it continued to grow. And that's an example of how important technology was in this area. So we've come through COVID well. We've strengthened our sector and employment in this area during COVID. And I think it has all been enabled through digital finance and technology.
Thank you. And maybe one last question, Minister, which is kind of the outlook for the year, because I know you've got, as you said, the digital strategy that you're looking at. What would you see as the priorities for this year, hopefully coming out of COVID, around the digital finance agenda?
Okay, the first thing I'll say, we have our international financial sector here in Ireland that employs about 53,000 people. It's up 3,000 than 12 months ago, which, as I said, is a great achievement. And we've re-looked at our strategy that we've had in place. The international financial sector is here about 35 years. We have a policy document spanning 5 years, and we're updating it now. And I've signaled that recently. And our key themes that we're looking at, number one is fintech. Number two is sustainable finance. And I think everybody knows after, Glasgow and COP26, and the government is launching a plan, in relation to those issues here in Ireland today. And I think Ireland wants to see itself as a key source of finance and funds, for the sustainable finance investment that will take place globally. And I think that's going to be a big issue for a number of decades to come. And I do think what we want out of the fintech area is, domestically for Ireland, we want regionalisation and diversity of talent, and not just, males and female numbers, but the diversity of thought, diversity of approach, diversity of gender types, and diversity of countries and languages that are spoken here. So we're getting very much a more cosmopolitan region, and we are working on education. That's a key area, I would say, in relation to fintech we can point to in the last 12 months. For the first time ever, we have a government minister for further education. And by that, I mean, we always had a minister for education here, but our country thinks education is so important. There can only be 15 cabinet ministers in the Irish government. We've dedicated two to education, one to the early and up to second level education, but now we have a new department for higher education. We're already working with us in the Department of Finance with very high levels of qualification in the fintech area. And some of these new syllabuses, of course, are only being launched this year. Didn't happen last year with COVID. So we really believe from the next academic year, later this year, we will have a number of new courses to train people. And I will say, lots of the major firms that I've mentioned here in Ireland have very sophisticated digital hubs themselves, serving their company, right across the globe, not just their Irish operation. And that has proved very important. Some of the major companies are basing some of their key cyber security activities here in Ireland, which is great. And we know that's going to be a more important area in the years to come. And that's an example of where it all boils down to fintech and technology. And, the whole question then of cryptocurrency and those issues, we're working with Europe on those. We're not operating unilaterally, and that couldn't be the case being in the euro area. So look, we're working closely with Commissioner McGuinness, who's an Irish person here, who has responsibility in this sector. And I understand she's speaking to your conference tomorrow. So she will be addressing us here at our meetings internally in a physical sense that didn't happen last year. So look at, that's a summary of the main points, I would say, from the Irish perspective. But we look out very much, the Irish market served by the international financial services sector and the fintech companies is only a small part of our business. Most of our business is right across the globe, but headquartered here in Dublin.
Thank you very much indeed, Minister, for making the time. And indeed, yes, the conference tomorrow starts with a conversation between me and Commissioner McGuinness, which will be very interesting. Thanks for spending some time with us.